We work well together, I guess. That's what it boils down to. You were very well received last time you were here. So, of course, we had to have you back. I wanted to talk to you today about something that seems to be a controlling factor in a lot of things, and that's the whole concept of what insurance actually is when it comes to the insuring, obviously the word sewer in there, the sewer name. But, you have so many different forms of insurance that a lot of them I don't even think people really even consider. An example would be, when every soldier dies, government insures its investments. It's not insuring those investments for the family to get support and help after the death. It's actually a commodity that soldier is, and when that soldier is killed in action or other, the government is paid quite a bit of money for the control of that surname, and that's what's being insured. So I wanted to really hit this kind of hard today because it seems to be, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to be the basis for a lot of things, securities and everything else.
Everything. It's the foundation of the medical industry, the psychological industry, and the legal industry, which is everything that everybody knows. Insurance is what the game is. And it's actually called guarantee insurance. There's only actually 3 forms. There's guarantee, judicial, and commercial. And these all stem from the mutual ventures that Congress entered into in the 1600s when they came and started taking human beings by letters patent, finding them and offering them that legal name, finding them, picking them up in hospitals, which are banks. Those banks since 1945 have been controlled by the United Nations. That is a bank charter. The 1945 United Nations Charter establishes those hospitals as banks where you deposit human beings, or posture. That's of a posture, deposit. And in that, genocide can be facilitated in a more swift manner. And
true.
If that does not occur, the situation would not be what we have today. The United Nations, of course, being each county. Each county is a foreign nation as defined by 28 U.S.C. subsection 1603. Each commercial enterprise is a county or a foreign nation. And this includes Google, Microsoft, Orange County, LA County, Michigan, California, front to back, side to side. This is all in insurance, and it all facilitates the action of genocide against the human populace.
Well, so insurance, I mean, when the average person thinks of insurance, they think, I'm going to sign a contract, which turns out to be basically a financial instrument. I'm going to sign this, and it says that I'm going to pay a premium, and if I get into trouble, there's a list of things that this policy will pay out. And, when it ends, it ends. If I get life insurance, I'll somehow miraculously have a big, huge payout at the end that there's no way they could have possibly collected enough to pay. What's actually happening when we fill out an application? I mean, let's start at the beginning. We fill out an application for insurance. What the heck happens? I mean, you're creating a what?
Well, and that application is in the form of a driver's license application. That ensures that you're going to be doing business as that franchise name. Insurance is a welfare application. Insurance is a insurance application or a credit application. All of these things are under policies written by Congress. Each life insurance policy is insuring the life of each corporation, each national foreign state, since the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, where Lincoln said that now the corporation is a person which has rights and all available access to be living over the citizen, which was given nothing in the 14th Amendment. Citizen is born or naturalized. That's it. The person is the one that got all the rights, and that's why we're dealing with what we're dealing with now. And so each time you enter into that business license of driving, which is a driver's license, you are underwriting those policies. You're the guarantee that backs those policies because you're subscribing to that state. You're patronizing that state. And at that time, you are an underwriter. You are subscribing, underwriting insurance policies.
Sure enough, to insure actually is defined as to underwrite, to practice making insurance. To be insured is to be made sure, to be assured, secured against loss. It's funny, it has insurgent there, too. It's kind of funny. All right, folks, welcome back to the Corporation Nation. We're delving into the corporation today, and we're delving into its seedy underbelly. We're into its underwriting. What does it mean to be underwritten? What does it mean to underwrite?
Subscription. And just like Jesus said, don't call anybody else your father, don't patronize it, don't partake of the tree of knowledge, which only bears concepts. That's subscribing. You're underwriting everything that's occurring upon you. Humanity has been underwriting these policies for years and years simply by patronizing it, subscribing. And that's what it takes. It has its authority. Power is vested in Congress, of course. It has its authority when everybody patronizes it and asks it to represent them. But Congress means with transgression. That's your transgressor. That's the thing in the garden that's taking the garden as it sells you concepts born of the tree of knowledge that happens to kill you, which is what? Civil death. Because you're patronizing something else, you're entering into a state of death, civil death, because you have abjured the realm. You are the king. Congress came here and said, oh, we own all this property. And you said, yeah, okay, you can represent me. And I laugh when I'm nervous, and I'm sorry about that, but this is the most profound time now, is during this awakening when humanity and law enforcement has both awakened finally, and we're seeing the results of that now. Now is when revelation is occurring. Now is when senators are being picked up every other day, attorneys are being picked up every day, judges are being picked up every day, and these psychopaths are being removed from the ability to harm, which is what Jesus intended all along. And if you pay attention at all to the mainstream media, the great city is on fire. Babel is falling as we speak because the whore of Babylon, which is us, we're the ones that have been fornicating with Congress. We've asked it to go ahead and take our estates. Take my body. You have jurisdiction. Go ahead and do whatever you're going to do. Now that the whore of Babylon has no longer contracted, now we're saying the law merchant whale, which is what the intent of all of us, all of our work, every day, every moment, every breath we take, is to take humanity out of being within the action of genocide and remove all threat upon mankind. And that's where we're at now. And it's just it's overwhelming for me because as we've walked along, we've all been educated. We've all walked through this same experience and, been sidelined a time or two or three, and to see it actually coming to fruition, I never ever thought that I would see that in my lifetime. My original intent was to lessen the harm upon my children, but heck, if we can remove it, that's even better.
Now you used, I agree. I perhaps not as optimistic about the future as you may be, but I do see some pretty finally some corruption being answered to, which, the problem, of course, as you well know, is that how can you have corruption when there is very little law in place to deal with that corruption, when you have a Congress that has its own ethics committee that decides what is ethical or not. I compare that to a prison ethics committee where the prisoners decide whether the other prisoners are doing things that are, ethical or not. Of course, they all know each other and they all know each other's crimes, so it's nothing but honor among thieves. So no case ever gets out of the Senate Ethics Committee, not even the worst kind of bribery or anything, because they decide, well, no, this case doesn't have merit, so we're not going to send it to a judge. So, how do you expect to have any law when the law itself is completely lawless? It's legal versus lawful is you're seeing it unfold into itself, I guess.
Right, and what happened was we began evidencing all of their criminal acts and on record. And we ended up facilitating the United States court, establishing the United States court after condemnation of their court. They no longer have the commission for the Ethics Commission. Their commission through the Treasury ended in October. That was what everybody saw as the government shut down. They lost their Treasury access. They were given another chance by the House of Lords to rectify the situation, which was what everybody saw. They got enough money to maintain the overhead for another month. They did it again. We were able to evidence again, and by November, that yes, indeed, they were perpetrating genocide against humanity. They were not protecting humanity using those Treasury monies. And so now at this time, there is no Ethics Commission. There's a presentation. There's Dianne Feinstein getting up there and saying, look, the CIA is all up in my business and everything else. She is the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. She is the director of the CIA.
Pretty much.
But all of these things, these presentations, they're trying to keep this going, but it's failing. And that was Jezebel. The media is Jezebel. That's the thing that's providing you all of these miraculous things and all of these presentations. Disappearing planes. This is just, it's just like this bad B-list movie.
Yeah, it was funny how much attention that got, the disappearing plane. Well, you're playing a little bit off 9/11 there to spook people back into their old fears. But while we're on this subject, why don't you explain? Because there's this thing out there about the Federal Reserve, and I've had this conversation a lot. I've done a lot of research on it. But what I didn't quite understand when I was doing my research is that the Treasury was actually separated as a separate entity from the United States. And when the president was given what I call the dictatorial, emergency powers back in 1933, it actually says that both the president and the secretary of the Treasury, everything that they do from whatever 1914 heretofore and hereafter, basically everything is approved. In other words, Congress approves whatever the president's actions are, from this date until somehow that gets stopped. Well, of course, that's never been repealed. So explain how the Treasury was actually separated from the central government and what that actually means.
Well, what they did was they were doing, I would call it insider trading. What had happened was the original commission went to the taxing agency, which is the court. Those were the original banks in the 1789 Judiciary Act. So these banks, there were 13 of them established according to the 13 colonies. The Treasury was paying those banks to protect humankind and maintain them on general welfare as according to Article 1, Section 8, Clauses 1 and 2 of the Constitution. Well, they wanted to come in and make more money. They're supposed to be putting the money back into the Treasury if it's not used for humanity. They've never once done that. Well, come along to the last bankruptcy, and this isn't the first bankruptcy of 1933. The Federal Reserve was created to maintain a more effective means of moving that money around by reservation. So they were reserving rights superior to somebody else, which in turn steals somebody else's rights. So on the offshoot they're maintaining derivatives through the court process. And so they're hiding those monies, they're hiding the treasury monies, and all in all, they're not protecting anybody. They're not protecting any females under feminism. They're not protecting any children under the Crimes Against Children Act. They're not protecting anybody.
All right, folks, we'll be back. Sorry, Tim, we're going to cut you off. We're in the Corporation Nation. We're here with Tami Pepperman today. ChooseYourSide.org and Tami Pepperman. I always remember the .com. And, well, you know, there's, to understand how this insurance thing works, you know, you have to understand the structure that we're talking about. And I am learning along with my listeners today. Some of my listeners probably know more than I do. But when we're talking about a bank, you know, the term bank is a very interesting word because it can be used in so many different ways. Now, we have magistrates in the federal courts, which we call judges, but in truth, they're magistrates. But you see, the problem is court is a bank. So to say that judges are the ones that are writing insurance policy, it gets a little confusing for people. The governor is also a magistrate, defined as a magistrate. So let's go back in time here and maybe bring people forward because this has been going on for so long. To explain what an E4 was for us.
An E4, sorry, the connection was messing up. The Spartan E4s were the original magistrates, and they're the ones that were developing policy and politics by which to move human beings and human traffic human beings. And now, in the relative sense of now, it is now the Federal Magistrates and Judicial Association. Those are the same E4s as what was back at Sparta, or what was defined as Sparta, because if you go back into Spartan and Greek history, it's actually interpreted by attorneys for the benefit of mankind. So this business model was actually developed by attorneys, and it all stems from the Homeric hymns, all the way back to Homer, which was writing these fictional tales. And then those fictional tales were interpreted for us by attorneys, such as George Croat. There's 8 volumes on the history of Greece that's pulled out of the Iliad, the Odyssey by Homer, and the Homeric hymns, and those were fictions. We've been maintained as human stock through the action of education, and that's what we're dealing with now. We've been indoctrinated to believe in culture and nationalities and all of these different new species, new genus designed by corporations by which we can buy rights. If they sell us a concept, we buy the rights and benefits that come with those concepts.
So you know, most women or most females have bought women's rights. Most African Americans have bought equal rights. These are all concepts that are basically double-edged swords. You think you're getting something good, but in fact, not quite what you thought.
No, by subscribing, you're underwriting that policy. By claiming to be black or white or female or male or any other genus outside of the human race, you're subscribing and you're underwriting those insurance policies.
You're claiming a status to give you some benefit over other men or equal to other men. Interesting. So the E4s were basically the magistrates, sort of like we choose our judges. Although federal judges, are they even voted for by people, or are they appointed by they're appointed by presidents, aren't they?
Right, they're appointed, and they just hold together the whole schematic. When you go to 28 U.S.C. subsection 453, you see the judge's oath. They have an oath to discharge congressional bankruptcy.
Okay, so So all the way back in the time of Sparta. Now it says here that the e-floors were 5 and they were intended as a check, which on the regal power, according to some writers, on the Senate. That's from Milford. Of course, if government itself is choosing who its check is, it's not really a check, is it?
Absolutely not. And it's the same thing now with the Federal Magistrate Judges Association. If you go into their checking maneuvers now, the E4s have transferred or been moved over since 1974 with the Inspector General's Act into the Inspector General's, and now it's called the Federal Transparency Board or something like that. Thanks, Joe, blah, blah. So it makes it look nice, it makes it look special and something pleasing, but it's absolutely not pleasing at all. In that act, they insured all of those deposits that are deposited in the hospital. So human beings are first deposited in banks, hospitals are banks, courts are banks, and then the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation insures them again. On top of that, on top of the human being the security on these mortgage-backed securities, that means a human being. The security is a human being, and it's measured by its productive value.
And then human being is an interesting word in and of itself, because that's also, I mean, I've heard it defined as monster. I've heard it defined in several different ways. Animal is another way. So are you speaking of a legal degradation, or are you talking about...
Absolutely not. Okay. That definition of monster out of Ballantine, it refers to the attorney, the monster that is not of human blood. It says it's not of human blood. It just looks like the human being. And the monster is actually attorney or psychopath. The thing that is not all the way human, but it looks like a human or acts like a human. And that's what we're dealing with. When you go all the way back before Greece, before Sparta, when all of this first began and the attorney or the psychopath had come in, it's actually the war is still ongoing with Cro-Magnon man and Neanderthal. The human being is Neanderthal. We are the evolved species. Cro-Magnon doesn't have a frontal lobe. It is not evolved. And the actions upon humanity, these genocidal actions, are maintaining our populace so that they can control us. Human being does not consider another being as a monetary value. It does not consider another human being as a value or something to count. The psychopath does, and that's where you see the depopulation coming in. That's where you see, you got to cut the overhead like they did in Nazi Germany. That was the Bear Corporation, the attorneys coming in and indemnifying Poland through court process, and that was Congress's world courts that Congress owns.
Well, I suppose that the reason that we're always thinking, why does does the worst of the crop, not the cream of the crop, but the worst spoiled part of the crop always rise to the top? Why do the most corrupt always seem to get to the top of the political and the banking and everything else? And I guess that's probably why, right? Just because
they've redefined survival as of the fittest, maintaining that whoever has the fattest pocketbook or whoever has the most voice, which is the introduction of media into the populace. The media itself is a weight. It's a weight of measure. And so when somebody can control the media, such as the bbg.gov, the Broadcasting Board of Governors has international control of all civil media. And in that, they have the greater weight or the greater value in the human mind until now. Now, when we're able to be aware, when we're able to be awakened and divesting of all of these concepts that are fed to us day after day through television programming. Now, the human mind is the greatest computer there is. When you apply television programming, you're programming that mind to be whatever you want it to be through constant application, constant media influence, And that's how they've done it. And again, we spoke about the treatise on education before a meal. That is the way of breaking the human being down so it can be owned, so it can be manipulated. It is done through education, which stems from the word pedagogy, meaning attendance on boys. That's the removal of the firstborn son, is to teach you that you are corporate stock, to teach you to live as a fiction.
I was just going to ask what the origin of the word education is. I've never looked, and I do remember the word pedagogy, certainly. What does it mean again?
Pedagogy means education, comma, attendance on boys. That's what it is.
You used the word. Oh, of course, now I forgot the word. Of children. It was. Was it a testing? No, it was. The purpose of education was pedagogy, and they take the firstborn, and what the heck did you say?
Attendance on boys.
Attendance, yes. What does that mean, attendance?
Well, when you go to the etymology, I just had it. Huh. Wow. Okay, just 1 second. I'll have it. I put it in the Skype as well. I just forgot to leave that page open. Pedagogy, of course, means education or attendance on boys, and then you've got attendance. It's a form of counting things. Let me go get the etymology here. Sorry about the wait.
Oh, that's okay. They're used to it. They're used to my absent-mindedness sometimes.
It comes from the late 14th century act of attending to one's duties, from Old French attendance, attention, wait, hope, expectation, from attendant present participle of attender, meaning action of waiting on someone, dates from late 14th century to dance attendance on someone in the late 1560s, that of action of being present, presenting oneself, originally with intent of taking a part in, is from mid-15th century, meaning number of persons present, is from 1835. And what it is, it's an accounting mechanism when you're attending on boys or attendance on boys. You're ensuring that they become something that you want them to be. And 20 years ago, the title was politically correct. Everybody started calling everybody else politically correct. That is not human. That is good for politics. That's not good for humanity.
Yeah. All right. Well, so back to this insurance thing. So we talked about the E4s, and they were the magistrates, and the courts. Of course, we still have magistrates and courts. Courts are banks. They handle the court registry investment system, which is part of U.S. code as well. I can't remember the numbers like you do, but so back to insurance. Insurance seems to be a word that means, again, something completely, different than what we're used to it meaning. It seems to have a deeper meaning that I don't fully quite grasp yet. So let's keep going on this.
Okay, so there's three different forms of guarantee insurance, of course, which is fidelity, judicial, and commercial. And in this, you're going to have foot soldiers, especially if you're a corporation that relies on insurance. You're going to have people on the ground that are facilitating these things. Now, which
corporations rely on insurance? Let's just
put it out on the table. The United States incorporated itself.
All right.
And each franchise. Now, each franchise is through insurance, a commission state stemming from each state constitution. So it depends on when they came into the perpetual union established way back when at the Articles of Confederation. Though each article is an article of incorporation. Each treaty and each charter are the terms of these insurance policies. So you have acts that are telling you what's going to ensure something's going to happen. And the easiest way to explain it, I guess, is through federal emergency management. So if you go to your state right now and you look up the emergency rules under your state's administrative code, which is not statute, this is a different code, you'll find that each state of emergency refers to human beings. These are states of being, and these are means of institutionalizing human beings. So the insurance policy is the Federal Emergency Management Act, or FEMA, and each county ensures that those things are going to occur. Now today I was writing or researching and having to deal with another murder that has happened within this corporate structure. And so when I go back into these policies and into these directors, of course, I have to go through these medical industries. And in one, for example, I will just bring up one in Michigan, the Health Centers of Family Health Care. You can find them on familyhealthcare.org, Board of Directors. Now, the trustees of this bank are Gerald Anderson, Lake County retired, Reverend Lawrence Doom, Lake County retired, Ruth Ann Harris, Newaygo County retired, Eric Rudart, Newaygo County Rudart Agency Insurance, and Corey Van Fleet, Lake County retired. So there's an insurance corporation that owns this hospital, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so if they want to guarantee such as death derivatives, how is that made possible? Well, they're killing patients. Okay, we just had the evidence of this, and in this case, this is actually regarding Joseph Reynolds.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you, Tami? Oh, shoot. Did we lose the signal, or are we... Oh, man. All right. Imagine that. Hospitals intentionally killing people. I can't imagine. No more than I can imagine our military hiring the Mossad to kill our people. I can't imagine. No, I can't imagine. Tami, we got you back? Mm-hmm. Oh, shoot. Well, interesting stuff. Now, we'll try to get Tami back here. One of the words that she uses, I find to be an interesting word, and I hear her say it a lot, and I finally just looked it up. It's the word abjuration. She says, basically you abjure from the realm. So let me read this to you from the 1828 dictionary. It says, abjuration, or to abjure, is the act of adjuring a renunciation upon oath as an abjuration of the realm by which a person swears to leave the country and never to return. It is used also for the oath of renunciation. Formerly in England, felons taking refuge in a church and confessing their guilt could not be arrested and tried, but might save their lives by adjuring the realm. Abjuring the realm. That is, by taking an oath to quit the kingdom forever. It's also defined as a rejection or denial with I hate these words, solemnity. A total abandonment as an abjuration of heresy. So, to abjure is to renounce upon an oath, to abandon, to abjure allegiance to a prince, to renounce or reject with solemnity, to reject as to abjure errors, abjure reason, to recant or to retract or to banish. So, boy, I can't tell if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it sounds to me like the way she was using it, we are abjuring from the realm of God and entering into the world of man. I don't know if we have Tami back to answer that riddle. We don't. Well. Well, we'll try to fix that over the break. We'll get her back. Sounds like I hear music anyway. But, what's that?
I am.
Hi.
Hi.
All right, folks, welcome back. You're in the Corporation Nation. My guest today, Tami Pepperman from ChooseYourSide.org and TamiPepperman.com. Tami, tell people how they can listen to your shows as well.
Well, Clint and I have been on together as well on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'm on Thursday nights, which competes with Clint, so don't do that. You can catch me on YouTube at Talk Revolution Radio on YouTube for the archives, or you don't have to miss Clint's show. And I'm also on Saturday night, 6 to 8 p.m. on Studio B at freedomslips.com as well.
I don't know how you could possibly do your show knowing that I'm on at the same time. It's just got to be so hard. Just
no, it really is for me, because I don't miss your show except for on Thursday nights when I'm doing my show, which it's an irritant to me. I love your show.
I appreciate it. It's good to know. We were just looking up speaking of the word abjure. Interesting, because the term AB, before we discovered that the word injure, to injure somebody is really means to take something or someone into the law. So in law, basically. So the opposite of that, of course, would be to abjure. And the word AB, actually is a prefix, of course, and it stands for from, or separating, or a departure from. So when we're talking about this term, and I've heard this term before, I never really gave it much consideration until now, but an abjuration of the realm, that realm is referring to what?
Your law, your sovereignty. You're giving up your entire estate by being represented by somebody else. That's what you're asking for, as representation. But being represented, they're turning you into a negotiable instrument. Now you're not you anymore, you're something else. And that's where you come in with the hypothecation. The letter A is a hypothetical person. It stands in your place. So a baby boy, a baby girl, that means something else is there in your place to represent you. And then you go forward into the law. As soon as you get into the law itself, you're determined by being a black acre or a white acre, which is a fictional tract of land. That's what they mean by territories. Territory seized. You're under seizure, called deceased, and which means of seizure. And then when you go all the way back and look at the metaphor of Caesar, it's the Caesar of all things under courts of assize. These are just courts of seizure. You're the thing being seized. You're being called all sorts of things, including birds. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1 indicates that you migrated and were imported here. So therefore, the United States Incorporated is going to preserve you under 16 U.S.C. 7 and call you an animal. And you're subjugated as an animal under Title 7. It defines animal as one of them being man. And therefore, you're just on their farm. This stems all the way back from the Forest and Chases Charter, where somebody's claiming to be the king, saying it's their land, and you're just lurking there. You're just walking along and bugging them. And that's the whole concept of these diagnoses is stemming from bottomry bonds, and they're saying it's happening in the water. You bumped into their vessel. Therefore, they found you, they're picking you up, and they're diagnosing you as what? Injured. And that facilitates that bottomry bond. That facilitates the action of garnering those small government loans from the SBA.gov. Now it's called the Small Business Administration. You can find the QSIP participation program, the Devonshire participation program, through going to SBA.gov, smallbusinessadministration.gov. And you'll find what they take loans out. It's based on your productive value. Now, debenture itself is defined as a debt secured by your own productive value. So you're not securing any loans. You're actually securing the debt, which is relative to Article 12 of the Articles of Confederation. You are pledged and charged to discharge congressional bankruptcy, thanks to Congress. They said that's your pleasure.
Now, this term black acre and white acre, I haven't found that anywhere but in Black's Law Dictionary, and it basically refers to a piece of land that has a fictitious name. And as I understand it, that's what they refer to us as, correct? And it's actually supposedly one of the most coveted acres that there is over the actual land. Explain what a black acre is. Oh, come on now. This girl is tackling things that you people need to know about, and that you don't want you to know about. I'm telling you, some of the things we are not talking about, we're not going to talk about today until some of the processes are finished. Hopefully we'll have another show with Tami to talk about what's happening with her friend who's was kidnapped unlawfully, and they're going after the insuring agency for lots of money for that particular case. She doesn't want to talk about that until the case is actually over, but she does want and probably won't talk about what's going on in these hospitals. Like I said, you have a literal. I mean, think about who again rises to the top. Why are there so many Jewish doctors, for instance? So many Jewish lawyers. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's all designed as a presentation. It's just like the designation of the Amish. They're all actors. They present one thing, and as they act in commerce, and then they're telling you in their text that they're not acting in commerce. And these things allow the division of humankind. If you're Muslim and I'm Christian, we don't like each other. Or if you're Jew and I'm Catholic.
Oh, I think we lost her again. This is... well, shoot. Unfortunately, maybe Tami can call in or... okay. Sounds good. Well, we were talking about... really what I was referring to were people with, again, that lack of the frontal lobe, the lack of empathy, and the lack of... I mean, I've been the victim of hospital fraud before. I have gone in there and been cut into by some random doctor that just came in and cut me open, and I guess he wasn't supposed to, and cut a big piece out of me. Fortunately, it was the right surgery, but and then I was left there for about 45 minutes with this big open wound, and no one to clean me up or stitch me up or anything. That's Kaiser Permanente for you. Way back when. I mean, I was misdiagnosed so many times. I can't tell you. The things that they do in hospitals today make me feel like nothing more than a growth medium. Welcome back. You're in the Corporation Nation, and a tactic that works very good to disrupt conversation, of course, is the classic cutting in and out of conversations to cease the flow of the conversation. Congratulations, it worked. I can't remember where to begin and where to end, so yeah, good job, boys. It works real well. But we're going to keep doing it, so you're going to have to pay extra attention. All right? Whenever I have certain guests on, you're going to have to really, take special care to screw with us. And I know, Tami, you're used to this, so, I mean...
Their handlers have my fee schedule, so whatever they're attempting to do, it's always espionage. I'm not a citizen of the United States Incorporated. I am the United States and the clerk of the United States, and you're impeding my ability to communicate with other states, and you find it espionage under 18 U.S.C. subsection 794, and it's sad, but each time this is facilitated, your handlers aren't going to tell you. They just pick you up and use you to discharge their new bankrupt state, which is very sad. But if you watch the mainstream media, you can see this taking place, and Secret Service agents accidentally being shot in the head and calling it suicide. And there was one Russian agent that they sort of committed suicide by zipping himself into a duffel bag and then locking it from the outside without leaving any fingerprints on the lock. That's how much the handlers think of them. So whoever's listening or whoever wants to listen, be advised that your handlers don't think anything of you.
Yeah, that includes you, military.
Yep.
If only more of them would listen.
They did, and it was so sad. Months ago, they came in, and when we cut their funding through the Treasury, they came in and said 650,000 federal employees may not have passed their credit checks, their criminal background checks, because there's been a mistake in the system. And they opened the floodgate to take 650,000 federal retirements by maintaining that these people were criminals or by maintaining that they'd done something wrong. And we're watching that as it comes to fruition now. They are nailing left and right federal employees. They don't care. And our main focus has been on law enforcement. It has been on all of these useful idiots. Please open your eyes and realize what's going on, because they use you first to discharge their congressional bankrupt state. And this is exemplified in Nazi Germany itself. When the Bear Corporation came in as the Republic of Germany, it came in through the World Court, and it said, we'd like to indemnify Poland. There's too much overhead. And at that point in time, what you saw as Nazi Germany was them cutting the overhead. They were killing federal and state employees by the bushel to cut the overhead. Citizens always produce. They always patronize. They always can be pit up against each other, and there's always different market conditions. But the overhead is always overhead, and everybody needs to open their eyes right now, because I do not want to see that occur again. That's like my nightmare is to watch as they're cannibalizing law enforcement, as they're cannibalizing federal agents, as they're cannibalizing teachers and other overhead without any remorse, without any mercy, without any thought to them. They already hold their retirements in the municipal coffers under the REIST Act, the Employee Retirement Insurance Securities Act. They moved all of those retirements into each nation, into each county, upon divorce decrees and other orders. And at that point in time, their insurance requires that they keep it there because they're already taking loans off of it. And the only way to facilitate that is to get you into the hospital setting to kill you, to diagnose you through the psychological industry, to criminalize you, diagnose you through the criminal industry. This is how they discharge congressional bankruptcy. They use the human being as product on a farm. Everybody needs to be aware, because this is horrifying. And it ends here. I mean, they're being held accountable. I cannot speak on current updates at this time. I expect that I will be able to within the next 3 days or so. But do watch the media, because it's already occurring and being facilitated as we speak at a swift rate. They're nailing attorneys left and right, judges left and right.
Well, what are they being nailed on?
It all depends on the attorney or the level of production. Yesterday we had, or today, Illinois judge gets 2-year term in drug scandal. That one was charged around October, I believe it was, with using heroin. And one of his friends, his buddy there, another judge, was killed at that time. And he's still under investigation for that death as well. So everybody, what had happened last August is, in our court case, we realized that the human being was being used as the surety. Only a natural person could be a surety under their statutory provisions. Well, we came in and we said, no, they're the ones with the fictional government, and we evidence that the human being has its own government. We have our own house. And so we had to declare them dead after looking for these judges and looking for these attorneys for a long, long time. We couldn't find any because they're always fictional creations. Those are offices. And in that, according to the Sister Kivaya, they were declared dead, and now they are the surety. Yesterday in Arkansas, a lawyer charged in Hot Springs slaying finally turned herself in. She's charged with manslaughter because she had affiliations with the governor and running or something, and he's dropped out of the running for the gubernatorial candidacy at this time. McDonald, the hearing reset for former Utah attorney and son's charged with making pot byproduct. He's the new product, so he's going to be charged under 27 U.S.C. 72.11 commercial crimes. You can charge a fiction for commercial crimes. You cannot charge a human being for commercial crimes, and that's what we're seeing now. More teenage boys reporting forced sex by women in the U.S. Since 2009, the United Nations has been reporting that the female is the main perpetrator of child sex abuse, female sex abuse, male slave labor, and yet they were never holding her accountable. She was very productive, but she sexually abused a child. That child would be diagnosed. That child would go through the psychological industry. That child would end up in the criminal industry as it was acting out. That's a form of production. And now they're holding her accountable and stopping that production at its inception so that she's no longer allowed to abuse, whereas before she was specialized under feminism. FBI raids Calumet Township clerk office. This witnessed corrupt activity regarding financial stuff. They were not reporting their discharge of congressional bankruptcy. They were actually undercutting the federal state. So the federal state came in and said, no more of that. Former principal's conviction upheld in Muncie high school rape case. This guy was asking that his charges be dropped. He had allowed a child to be sexually abused under his watch. It's just falling apart. That one attorney yesterday, or 2 days ago, was hilarious, as well as Senator Lee from California out there. The FBI just raised his office. They announced 26 of them. That one you can find at Bono's Entertainment on YouTube.
All right, folks, welcome back here in the Corporation Nation. With me today is Tami Pepperman. Oh, Tami, good stuff. I was just looking up a couple words. I looked up the word fidelity because, we hear the words. Fidelity is one of the forms of insurance we were talking about. And we hear these words all the time again, and we don't really think about what it means to have fidelity insurance. What a bizarre concept when you find out what fidelity actually means. Faithfulness, careful, and exact observations of duty or performance of obligations. Firm adherence to a person or party with which one is united, that's us, or to which one is bound, loyalty as the fidelity of subjects to their king or government. The fidelity of a tenant or liege to his lord. Observance of the marriage covenant is the fidelity of a husband and wife. And, of course, that refers to the marriage contract. Honesty, veracity, adherence to the truth. But most importantly here, we're talking about loyalty and obligation to duty. So if you want to make sure, Tami, that your subjects, your citizens, your persons, including your corporations, if you want to make sure that these entities that you've created that they fulfill all of their obligations no matter what, even if they don't, even if they turn out to be an unemployed bum, that somehow they're going to fulfill their obligations, their fidelity. What are you going to do? You're going to put an insurance policy on that labor product. You're going to actuarially project what that thing is worth, what the product of its labor is, what its obligations to the state will be, and you're going to put an insurance policy. You're going to create an insurance policy on that in order to. So, I mean, imagine. I mean, it's hard to imagine that loyalty is insured, that your obligations as a good little citizen are insured. Whether you are a good little citizen or not, they're still making money off the basically assumption that you are, right? I mean, that's pretty much what we're talking about. It's a bizarre concept, but they're insuring the possibilities.
Right, and the insurance on insurance is education. It creates the product. It's making man in its image. It's breaking you and teaching you that you are not you, but that you're something else. And that's the insurance on insurance. It solidifies the game. It's like if you were playing a game of poker and you have 52 aces up your sleeve. It's the same format, because if you educate a product and you create the product, you're insuring or guaranteeing what the product is going to do. It's through morality, psychology, and ethics. And the foundation of this whole system is education. It's the insurance on insurance. You're guaranteed to produce the way that they need you to produce at any given moment in time, because you're observing other productive members or being told what is a productive member of society through television programming and radio broadcasting. And when I grow up, I want to be that. Well, when you're seeking something, you're not yourself. You are not yourself. You're something else already. And so you're seeking those titles. And that's what Jesus was so adamant about. Divest yourself of all that possesses you. Drop all those titles. Stop seeking to be and just be. And once you're just being, you're no longer predictable. You're no longer the product. You're no longer insuring or guaranteeing these events to occur. I mean, they're insuring your future as well. They've got future tradings on these securities. They're hedging the bet at the municipal level. Well, how do they do that? They have the workers on the ground through fourth-generation warfare or low-intensity conflict to make these things occur. If you need to get a speeding ticket, you're going to get a speeding ticket. If you need to die in the hospital setting, they have actors that will kill you in the hospital setting. If you need to get in a one-car accident, they're going to cause a one-car accident. If your house needs to burn down, they're going to burn your house down. And they just started just now, since August now, since we made them a surety. They are nailing them for that as well. They got an insurance agent, sheriff down in Florida, not even a month and a half ago, within an investigation called Floods and Flames, and they had charged him with insurance fraud. That's their function. The sheriff before, in the Henderson case, when I was going through Erica and Jeffrey Henderson case, they had witnessed the sheriff throwing flares into abandoned homes and dry fields in California to set the wildfires that occur. Who cashes in on that? Congress, the municipality. You cannot industrialize any area unless you raise it to the ground first. You have to burn it down in order to build it. And they did the same thing with Katrina. They're doing the same thing right now in Syria. They're doing the same thing right now in Crimea. It's the same confederacy. The Russian Confederacy, Federation, is in confederacy with Congress. It's 1941 Atlantic Charter. This is all the same business model. This is how you make the business go around. You burn everything to the ground and then you rebuild it. You make people refugees, traffic them across the globe. You're earning money on these human beings left and right. These are never losers until now. Now they're being held accountable. But it's been horrifying up until now, living in this marquee. It's a marquee. When you go back to the original houses, it's not just the House of Representatives, go back to the House of Gelm. It says, look, all we have to do is tell these people that a bunch of dead guys told us what to do, because they have memories like goldfish here. We can tell them anything. And that's what they've always counted on, the media presentation. What are you going to buy into? How much are you going to believe? How much are you going to take Job and still patronize the Lord God right there in your garden? How much are you going to take? And Job took a lot of stuff while the attorneys and the landlord played with him that whole time. They wiped out his family. They took his businesses. They took his farm. This is exactly what you and everybody else is going through. The Bible refers to you and what happens throughout your entire life and how many titles you take up. You can be Job. You can be Judas. You can be Jesus. You can be Paul. You can be any other Levite or taxman. You can be a judge. You can facilitate acts or whatever else. But ultimately, it comes down with revelation. As soon as you are revealed for what you are known for your works and actions, and you will be held accountable for those things. That's what that book is talking about. It's telling you, hey, look, you're God. They taught you that you're not God, and now they pretend to be your God. You patronize that thing, call it Father. But wait a second. Jesus says, no, don't call it your Father. Wait, measure that. Measure that with your logic in your head and realize, what is going on here in Genesis. It stems from the doctrine of abiogenesis, meaning away from life, mind, and soul. Exodus means away from God, outside of God, exodus. And so if you're outside of God, if you're patronizing a judge that comes down from a hill that tells you that you're the one that's hurting everybody, don't believe that judge. He's going to cash in by charging people rent on your body after he harms you or his minions harm you. That is the construct of this corporation, this incorporated state called a confederacy.
What percentage would you say of the Bible, dividing it into the old and the new, what percentage would you say is when it says the word God? I mean, obviously when it's not capitalized, or it says the word Lord or Lord God. How much of the time is it speaking to the spiritual realm, and how much of the time is it talking to the temporal Lord acting as God on earth, the man pretending, wearing a fish hat and pretending to be the vicar of Christ? What would you say the percentage of the Bible is referring to the king as God? And this confuses people, of course.
Right. The very first page of Genesis refers to God, and it says that God took up concepts. When you read the Greek translation out of the Wycliffe Bible, it says God collected the concepts of night and day, heaven and earth. And after that point in time, the Lord God or the landlord has been telling you concepts. Man is a legal creation.
I've got my big dictionary open. Of course, my cat wants to lay on it, but I was just reading the definition. I was thinking over the break too. I was like, we talk about the Bible, and like you said, the first part of the Bible, of course, it says God created the earth, the heavens, and the earth. Of course, the firmament, right? Well, that's not any different than the beginning of the Bible for science, which says that a big bang happened and it created everything out of nothing. It's a religious view. It means simply, I don't know. We don't know how the earth was created. Any man who claims that should be guillotined. The arrogance that must come with purporting such knowledge is absolutely astounding to me, as is the ridiculousness of the Big Bang Theory, which at best is a wild speculative guess. There's actually been disproven in many ways. We won't go into that today. But again, you have a book that opens with the concept of God and that there is a creator, and that is what we should be focusing on and pleasing, to keep the creation as tenants of that creator in his world. Kidding. And that's probably the difference between the Bible of science and the Bible of God, is that there seems to be no responsibility in science. I was looking up the word policy, and because the word insurance and the word policy seem to go together, and it has some interesting definitions. The policy in commerce is the writing or instrument by which a contract of indemnity is effected between the insurer and the insured, or the instrument containing the terms or conditions by which a person or company undertakes to indemnify another person or company against losses of property. And it goes on. And then, of course, you have to see the word indemnity, which is an important word, because that's a simple definition. It's a security. Oh, what's traded on the markets? That's right, securities. An indemnity is security given to save harmless. A writing or pledge by which a person is secured against future loss. A person is secured against future loss. So you wonder why they're trading prisoners in the prisoner exchange market for securities with QSIP numbers. You wonder, all securities have a QSIP number. You wonder why they're trading mortgages. See, these are all contracts. They're paper. They're not really trading physical people. They're trading the fiction that is attached through surety to these people. And of course, the people are the victims. They're just along for the ride because they have no idea what the heck's happening to them. So an insurance policy, again, is an indemnity against the person, no matter what that person does, and that, again, includes corporations.
Well, since the 14th Amendment, the corporations were held harmless. That's just held harmless. The original indemnification here came in 1802 with the Convention for Indemnification of 1802 between Spain and the United States. You can find that at Avalon, and I'll send you over that link in a moment. That was something major because each policy then was by act of enablement. For example, Alabama, the 22nd state enabling act of the Congress of the United States, 2nd of March, 1819, it entered the Union, or the mutual insurance policy that have been maintained since the Perpetual Union was established as the United States of America, which, of course, is a style. It's a chain of events or congressional action. So this policy, sometimes you're writers on the policy, RIDER. You're writers. You're riding along on this vessel. When you go back to Genesis, the first page in the creation of man in something's image, it maintains that whoever created everything created those that creep it and calls it good. When you go back to the foundations of Greek, anthropo is a higher thinking being that creeps. That's us. When you turn that into man, a legal fiction or a creation of the mind or a concept, that's where you run into the game of Risk, which is, have you ever played the game of Risk?
Absolutely.
It's taking over what? Continents. So that word con means with and tenant. And what you're doing is you're teaching or educating a being to be a tenant of your land, to patronize you. That's what this game is. It's all an insurance. It's a game of Risk, taking over with tenants. And you can see this in their deeds, in their counter deeds, in their enablement act. The federal state enables these new states to come in and maintain those revenue streams through the original bank, the 13 colonies established in the 1789 Judiciary Act. And that's what it comes down to. It's just stacking human beings. And the sad part is that humanity isn't just sitting around as they're negotiated on the other side, because when you have a stock, and when you go to the etymology on gender, that stems from genus. When you claim to be a female or a male, you're a new species or stock option. Now, these stocks, yes, they're traded, but the back end or the front end of insurance is on the bottom line, the ground troops in that municipality, guaranteeing that all of these things occur against you by which you are producing nicely as a stock option for the United States Incorporated. That's a guaranteed stocking these stocks. And then they hedge the bet on top of that. So if they bet on your production, they have municipal hedge funds that are hedging that bet. It's the same thing you and I would do if we were playing blackjack together. You know, if you are the dealer and you've got an ace showing, am I going to insure the bet? That's what a hedge fund is. It's insuring that original bet.
So if I were to say, but Tami, the Bible says that man was created in the image of God. What does that mean?
Man was created in the Lord God's image. It says that it starts using the word Lord towards the bottom of the first page. And after that, it only mentions God. Like when they're attacking Job, it mentions God and Satan and the landlord. That means that, yes, we're going to tell you about this God, and you're going to believe that you're a bad boy and a bad girl because all of these things are happening to you. You can't understand why they're happening to you. But that's actually the silent weapons for quiet wars. Here's all of these situations happening. Oh, my grandmother died just now, and she died really weird. I mean, I'll just pick up from, my life. My husband was killed in 2000 through the medical industry. Okay, and at that time I couldn't see what it was, of course. And so, what did I do to deserve that? So then I
just got about a minute left, just to let you know.
But it's all these concepts, and we hold on to these concepts, and we're earning the right to be, and that is the guaranteed productivity. Because we're taught to earn the right to be, if we're slapped and given a ticket or something, we're going to earn the right to be. I don't want to be a bad girl. I don't want to be a bad boy. I want to earn the right to be. If we're called a bad mom or a bad dad, where do we find ourselves? In court producing for the attorney. It's the same thing over and over and over again. This is just productive line after production line in a corporation.
Tami Pepperman, thank you so much for joining me again. It's always a pleasure. We'll certainly have you back sometime.